Welcome to Crime Over Wine Weekly. It's Monday, April 22nd. I'm Heather Holley, and here are your crime headlines. Rust armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed will spend 18 months in prison. That's the maximum sentence for the involuntary manslaughter charge she was convicted of last month. The judge pointed to Gutierrez-Reed's lack of remorse in Helena Hudgens' death when handing the sentence down. Alec Baldwin is also charged with involuntary manslaughter in Hudgens' death. His trial is scheduled to start in July. A new court filing claims cell phone data will prove Brian Kohberger wasn't near the scene when 4 Idaho University students were murdered in 2022. Kohberger is charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and burglary. His attorney says Kohberger was driving, as he, quote, often did, to hike and run and or see the moon and stars that night. The defense plans on calling a cell phone tower expert to back up this claim in court. Kohberger's attorney also requested a change of venue, saying a fair and impartial jury cannot be found in the area the murders happened. A hearing for this motion is scheduled for May 14th. Opening statements in the first criminal trial of a former U.S. president start today. After 5 days of questioning, a complete jury of 12 people and 6 alternates were seated in former President Donald Trump's hush money trial. The jury consists of 5 women and 7 men, all from Manhattan. Trump faces 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. The case centers around allegations the former president made a hush money payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels during the 2016 election. If convicted, he could spend up to 4 years in prison. And coming up over Crime Over Wine Weekly, a heartbreaking development in the case of 2 missing moms from Kansas. Plus, a carjacking caught on camera turns into a homicide, and now investigators in Florida believe it's connected to several other criminal cases. But before we get to those cases, we have to check in with the amazingly smart and beautiful Michelle. Hello, Michelle. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm all right. We're getting through another week here. April has been the slowest month of the year so far.
Really? See, I feel like it's flying by.
Oh no, the first 4 months don't even feel like 4 months have happened, but April's been a little slow for me, but that could just be, I'm like have reverse sad. It gets warmer and I start getting sad.
I think like you're the first person that I've ever heard say that, but I get it. I totally get it. Not everybody likes the sunshine and the warm weather. I will say, and I feel like I'm a broken record with this, but my allergies have just been killing me, which, you know, where we live, we're surrounded by all of the trees, all of the plants, and all of the pollen, so...
And they just keep evolving to be worse.
I know. I keep thinking like, okay, we're over the hump. It's going to get better. And it's not getting better. I'm just keeping all of the allergy medicine companies in business by taking every product on the shelf.
Wow, way to back Big Pharma, Michelle.
Well, another industry that we back big time here on Crime Over Wine Weekly is wine. So let's get right to it. So, okay, last week we tried Prophecy's Pinot Grigio, and Heather, I really liked it. I ended up finishing the rest of that bottle later on in the week. That was a Heather pick. So this week it was my pick, and I decided, why don't we just kind of keep on the Prophecy train and let's try their rosé. Now, this rosé is described as having delicate and bright layers of fresh strawberries, raspberries, and even a hint of white peach with a crisp, refreshing finish. It pairs well with barbecue pork, salmon, grilled watermelon salad, and fresh mozzarella. So, all right, cheers, Heather. Let's try this. Ooh, I do like that.
I will say it's better than the first rosé that we picked out for the very first episode of Crime Over Wine Weekly. That was a joint adventure, and I did not love that one. Instantly got a headache from it. But this one, just from opening the bottle, I really enjoyed the smell. It smells delicious.
Also, have you ever had grilled watermelon salad?
Oh, did you see my face when you said that? Because what is that?
I've never had it either. I've never even heard of people grilling watermelon. So, that's interesting.
Apparently it's a thing and it's a good thing. But I've never had it.
Okay.
Let alone heard of a salad with it.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, another thing about this wine, I know that labels speak to you, Heather, and that was partly why you picked the wine last week. And so I did a little bit of research into the label because this week's label also had like a very beautiful woman on it. And so this is what I found out. The woman on the front is the goddess of fortune. She wears a delicate pink garment, which represents the delicate strawberry and raspberry notes in this rosé. The wheel represents karma. The goddess of fortune shows you must always take an active role in your own life because no matter how the wheel turns, you'll want to stay upright. So, first of all, that really spoke to me. Like, isn't that deep?
I love this company. I don't know if you went back and read the stars backstory from last week. It was also very deep like that and it spoke to me. We might have to just go through the whole prophecy lineup.
Yes.
This is very much like my aesthetic. It's tarot, it's witchy, and I love it. I wish they sold this on other merch, like besides the wine bottles. They're beautiful. I would buy art prints of these.
But wait, there's also more about this label. So if you really kind of look into the detail, the seeds that drop from the goddess's hands bloom into flowers. That shows that you reap what you sow, and the soft billowing clouds represent the delicate and crisp wine style that is a hallmark of a French rosé. So maybe, who knows, maybe prophecy like has something kind of coming down the pipe of, you know, maybe some merch on the side. But if they haven't, it's definitely a good idea because people relate, like just kind of like what we're discussing right now. People relate to things, and when you kind of learn a little bit of the backstory and you learn like the thought and the detail as to like what that piece of art on the bottle represents, like you can really relate to it.
Yeah, and I mean, granted, prophecy it hints towards divination, which tarot cards are a form of, and like so the elements that you're describing, this very much sounds like the Wheel of Fortune card, which carries a lot of like similar symbolism that this art has. And I do really love the one that you pointed out about the flowers, because it's the seeds come out of one hand and the cycle of the flower growing like goes around the wheel as also like the circle of life. And it's just beautiful. I'm probably going to spend more time studying the label than I am actually drinking it.
Okay. So I knew, like, as I was like doing the research, I knew that you would just love that whole story of the label. So I wanted to make sure that you got to hear it.
Thank you. This was a delicious pick and beautiful art and backstory too. Like 5 stars.
Ooh, 5 stars from Heather. I love it.
Yeah.
I think that might be like the first time that you've given 5 stars.
It is.
Some rosés, I don't like it. Some rosés have a little bit of like an aftertaste that I don't really care for. This doesn't have that. It's really light and refreshing, you know. And I think the description is exactly like what I'm experiencing, which I really like. So I would buy this again. I would definitely finish the bottle and buy another one. Okay, so much has like happened this week. So what's going on in this episode?
A lot. And I hope everyone is coming with maybe a pen and pencil, because a couple of these stories are very intricate and complex. We also have a missing persons case that's turned into a murder investigation. What we learned about the deaths of 2 Kansas moms reported missing last month. It's coming up after this break.
Crime Over Wine is sponsored by BetterHelp. As someone who's used therapy for years, I know that finding a therapist can sometimes be a stress on its own, juggling your full-time job, your family, your friends, your podcast, and trying to find the right therapist on top of that can almost feel impossible. That's where BetterHelp comes in. BetterHelp matches you with a therapist that works for you on your terms. It's online, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to one of 33,000 licensed professional therapists in as little as a few days. And because finding a new therapist is a lot like finding a new bottle of wine, if you don't jive with your therapist, you can easily switch to a new one at no additional cost. You can get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp by going to betterhelp.com/crimeoverwine. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/crimeoverwine for 10% off your first month. Join over 4 million people who decided to get help and get happy with BetterHelp. Crime Over Wine is proud to support Emancipate, Unlike episodes of Crime Over Wine, veterinary care shouldn't be a mystery, which is why Emancipet is making vet care affordable and accessible to everyone. Emancipet is a nonprofit organization that operates an ever-expanding network of low-cost veterinary clinics in neighborhoods across the country, offering discounted and free vaccines, flea and tick treatments, spay and neuter surgeries, and much more. Learn more and support Emancipet's mission at emancipet.org.
As a Kansas community prepares to say goodbye to two moms found murdered, the cases against the four people investigators say are responsible moves forward. The Oklahoma State Medical Examiner identified remains found last weekend as 27-year-old Veronica Butler and 39-year-old Jillian Kelly. The pair were reported missing last month when the vehicle they were traveling in was found abandoned along a highway. The two were on their way to pick up children before they went missing. Last weekend, Tad Burt Cullum, Tiffany Michael Adams, Cole Earl Toombley, and Cora Toombley were arrested on first-degree murder charges. The women's bodies were found the next day in a rural area. Court documents shed light on the relationship between the women and those charged and point to an ongoing custody battle. According to the affidavit, Adams is the paternal grandmother of Butler's children, and Callum and Adams were in a relationship. Investigators say all four suspects are members of an anti-government group called God's Misfits, and that they had allegedly tried to kill Butler before. That is according to a teenage witness who spoke with investigators. The affidavit states Adams had searched the internet for gun stores and, quote, taser pain level and bought 5 stun guns from a local gun shop a week before the women went missing. Investigators also found Adams bought several burner phones, and all 3 burner phones were found in the area where Butler's car was found. The affidavit also states blood and a broken hammer were found near the abandoned vehicle. So, Heather, this story is insane, and it was like, there was, like, you know, we had talked about how these women were missing, they were missing, and then it was like, in the last week, like, boom, you know, all of this information comes out, 4 people are arrested, you're starting to, like, learn the connection between all of them. It was like, it went from 0 to 60 real quick.
Yeah, and it potentially boils down to a custody issue. Like, if you've really had the child's interest at heart, murdering their mom wasn't the answer.
It's like, of all the things, because now look at, you know, the child or children, like, now look at the potential ramifications of this situation. Like, you know, they lose so many family members now.
Yeah, and so I got a little lost in there because there were the 4 people, and they're connected to one of the women who were dead. So was the other woman just an unfortunate bystander in all this who just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time?
And this is just my opinion. It may just be part of, like, this group that kind of, like, you know, if I have beef with someone, then we all have beef with them. You know, it might be kind of a situation like that. I'm not 100% sure. And maybe that will come out as the case moves forward in court.
And then you also mentioned some things that were found near the car. Are those possibly being identified as the murder weapons? Have they said how they died specifically?
That has not been released yet. No.
Wow, but I feel like it's not often that we go from missing person to murder to people in custody in like 24 hours that shifts, at least in the public side. It may have been that for investigators for a while, but just shared it.
Yeah, that's why I said, like, this case it went from 0 to 60 so fast. And, you know, even just hearing that, like, a teenager was involved with, like, helping, you know, investigators piece together information that apparently, you know, they tried to kill one of the women before. Like, it's just, holy cow. as I was doing more research into this, the grandmother, uh, investigators say that the grandmother had given a recorded statement and admitted to it all. Obviously that will be a large piece of evidence as the case moves forward as to, why and like what was to be gained. Like, just that will obviously be a very big piece in the courtroom.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're basically admitting to it. Like, her attorneys are gonna have a very difficult road ahead of them, representing her.
Yeah. So as that kind of starts to move forward in the justice system, I know that the funerals for both of the mothers are being planned as we speak, and the community will say goodbye to them, and I never like to say that families have closure when they've experienced situations like this, because I personally don't think there is closure, but at least they are able to lay them to rest.
Because there are so many families out there who have a loved one that went missing that they have to presume aren't coming back, and may have had a memorial service but didn't have a body. And I can't imagine trying to go through the grieving process with the assumption that your loved one is dead.
Yeah, it's kind of, I'd imagine, like, there's always a piece missing. You know what I mean?
And definitely going to be thinking of these kids moving forward, because this is going to be a very rough life now. They've lost mothers, they may lose additional family members, and that's going to be really hard to address and face in life.
The ripples of this crime are definitely going to be felt throughout so many families, throughout so many people, and it's changed the course of life for so many, and that's just heartbreaking. So you have a wild case this week. You sent me the video that you came across, and it was like wild. So let's just jump right on in and tell us what you've got.
I tried to simplify this timeline as much as I could, because with the length of what this podcast is, we do pretty condensed version of a lot of these cases. Like, yes, they're developing or happening now. Sometimes there's just some information that we intentionally cut because it's not pertinent at this moment to tell a shorter version of that story. So hold on to your butts. Here we go. On April 11th, Catherine Aguevas was driving in Winter Springs, Florida. Around 3:30 p.m., she called her husband saying a green Acura rammed her. He told her not to stop. And investigators say there aren't any records that Catherine or her husband called 911 for help after this. Around 6 p.m., a witness recorded Catherine being carjacked by an armed masked man while at a red light. Deputies believe that suspect was in the same green Acura from earlier. An hour later, witnesses in Osceola County report hearing gunshots and seeing smoke. Authorities arrive to discover a burning car with a body inside that they believe is Catherine. A positive match and identity have not been made, but they do believe it is Catherine. And at this point, investigators believe this wasn't random, but they do not know why she was targeted. That night and following day, an Orange County deputy claiming to be Catherine's cousin called the detective over the case. Deputy Francisco Archuela asked how the investigation was going both times. Investigators end up searching the deputy's cell phone and discovered two things. First, he provided a fake name to the detective. Archuela is really Deputy Francisco Estrella. Second, he had been in contact with Catherine's husband, Miguel Agues via WhatsApp. The two were sharing information about the detective over the case. In the following days, authorities learned Catherine's brother and husband had a mutual friend, Estrella's wife. They had asked her to ask her husband to see what he could find out about the lead detective over Catherine's case. Estrella was arrested and faces several charges, including disclosure of confidential criminal justice information and accessing devices without authorization. Now let's go back to the green Acura that the suspects were in. It was found abandoned at an Orange County apartment complex on April 13th. And here's what we've learned about that car since then. It's one of only 3 in Florida. There are only 3 green Acuras in all of Florida. Authorities say it's likely been back on the road since February, when it was bought from a buy here, pay here lot. However, the new owners never returned to finish the paperwork. A green Acura was spotted near the scene of a tow truck driver's murder on April 10th. That tow truck driver was responsible for towing that Acura from an apartment back in March. And authorities say the same 10mm bullets were used to kill the tow truck driver and were used to kill Catherine. Authorities say that this is a unique and uncommon round to see on the streets. Fast forward to April 19th. Authorities announced the arrest of Monixabel Romero Soto, and they're searching for Giovanni Crespo Hernandez. Romero faces several drug-related charges. Crespo is a person of interest in several home invasions and homicide cases, but he's also believed to be the last person that Catherine spoke to. A third unidentified person has been arrested by federal investigators on an unrelated weapon charge, and they're now a person of interest in Catherine's carjacking. Anyone with information in this case can call Crime Line at 1-800-423-8477.
This is wild.
Yeah, like, I don't even think I've seen like a crime movie that's this.
And you came across it in a video. Like, the carjacking was caught on
camera. I found it on a TikTok.
Yeah. And when you sent that to me, like, I was like, holy cow. I mean, when you've never, like, I've never been carjacked. I don't know anyone, like, when you don't really, like, I know what a carjacking is, but when you've never seen it or experienced it, like, you really can't comprehend it. So watching that video, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is terrifying.
It's terrifying to watch, but watching the actual encounter itself is like much more calm than I would have expected. The man is masked, walks up, they're at a red light at a busy intersection, walks up to the driver window and points a gun at her, and you can see that there's some talking, but then he gets in the back seat and they drive off and do a U-turn, and the green Acura that was behind them follows and does a U-turn.
Also, it's wild that there's only 3 green Acuras registered in Florida. Back in the day, like, Acuras were a very popular car. So to think that there's only 3 green ones in Florida out of all, there's a lot of people in Florida.
Yeah. Lot of, and this, the other thing is too, like, this has a fairly short timeline of happenings so far, but it spans several counties already in Florida. And we have several agencies, including federal ones, involved, but none of them are charged in any of the murders at this point. There's still no arrest in the death of anyone. And then, I don't know, take this with a grain of salt. One little TikTok investigator says out of the 3 Acuras, that this is the only one that exists still. The other 2 had been taken to salvage yards already.
Wow.
But I have not seen law enforcement say that yet. So keep your eye out for a green Acura with Florida tags and stay away from them.
It feels like everyone involved in this are like dangerous people, you know, going off of these crimes that they're accused of. I mean, this isn't just simple, like, shoplifting or anything like that. This is, like, violent crimes.
It's the less romanticized version of that Netflix show where the moms go and, like, rob banks and stuff with they accidentally get tied up with the legitimate gang member. I forgot what it's called, but it very much like, there's definitely some organization and, like, criminal ring conspiracy work at play here, but no one knows necessarily how or yet, like, how Catherine necessarily is involved in any of this either. Why she was targeted.
How and why Catherine that day? Like, what did she do? What did she know?
So the guy that they are looking for, who is potentially the last person to ever speak to Catherine, They don't know why necessarily he was the last one to speak to her or what their connection is, but he has been arrested for like a drug ring conspiracy previously and charged, and is a person of interest in homicides. So feel this dude has a background. And the other thing that's weird to me is not calling 911 from the very beginning, and the husband advising not to call 911, and then the husband asking a friend to ask her husband to look into the person investigating his wife's case. Like, he has not been charged with anything and hasn't been named a person of interest, but those are weird vibes.
What more was going on, that hasn't come out yet? Because I do feel like just the normal person involved in a carjacking like that, first thing I'm going to do is call police.
Yeah, if I'm driving and someone rams me and it appears intent, like I notice they followed me for a while and then all of a sudden they hit me. No, I'm 911. Yep. Hi, what's the emergency? I don't know, but they're hitting me and they purposely ran into me. They've been following me. I need help. Send the popo. Send the THP. I don't care. The people with the flashing blue lights, send them. Again, anyone who has information in this case, there still has to be a lot of information to gather here. Call Crime Line at 1-800-423-8477. And after the break, a missing Arizona woman's car is found near a park. The clues investigators found in it and the emotional connection she has to the area. Plus, a South Carolina woman vanished after church in 2017. The last thing Shaka J. Wood's family says her family did before disappearing.
Hello, Crime Over Wine listeners. I am Rachel.
And I'm Heather.
We are the hosts of Like Mother, Like Murder.
We bring you the good, the badass, and the crime.
Each week, we bring you stories from missing and murdered
to survivors and women who empower you.
And of course, some mom talk sprinkled in.
Check us out wherever you get your podcasts at Like Mother, Like Murder.
And give us a follow on social media so that we can say hi.
Okay, love you, bye.
Okay, love you, bye.
Hello, everybody. This is Liam Collins, the host of the podcast Crime Over Wine, and I'm about to make your Wine Wednesdays so much better. We know that there is nothing better than hanging out and listening to your favorite true crime podcast over your favorite bottle of wine, and that's where we come in. Every week, we share a new head-scratching true crime story while reviewing your new favorite bottle of wine. So your new true crime adventure is waiting for you. Crime Over Wine drops new episodes every Wednesday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back. And during the break, Heather, I had to go refill my wine, which is a good sign. I told you, I like this.
I know. I have refilled my glass already too. I refilled it before we got to the first segment, honestly.
So smooth and so easy to drink.
It is. It's light, it's juicy, for lack of a better term, because as everyone knows, I don't know wine words. Maybe we should incorporate like a weekly wine word so I can learn.
Or I feel like we should just take Heather's wine words and just make them into like little graphics, like what you just said. It's juicy.
And then you'll have to like translate it. It's like, that means that the tannins are blah, 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 blah. I just said tannins. I don't know what that actually means, but I know that they're a thing.
Okay, let's get to missing people. A search is underway in Pittsburgh for a missing 12-year-old. Tayshawn Battles was last seen on Friday after he was dropped off at his school, Westinghouse Academy. Police consider him at risk due to his age. He was last seen wearing a brown hoodie with a pink skeleton on the front, a black t-shirt, skinny jeans, and black and gray New Balance shoes. Police say he is known to frequent East Hill, Liberty Green Park, and the area around Obama Academy. If you know where Tayshawn Battles may be, call Pittsburgh Police at 412-323-7141.
The Washington State Patrol has activated a missing Indigenous person alert for a 16-year-old girl. Ginzel Kouassi was last seen April 19th around 5 p.m. in Marysville. Authorities say she may now be in the Tulalip area. Ginzelle's 5'5" with brown eyes and brown hair. She was last seen wearing a dark top and white pants. If you see her, call 911.
Family and friends of a missing Colorado woman are trying to raise money to help with the search. Casey Yoder was last seen January 14th, leaving her home in Eaton. Friends say the 35-year-old mother of four had a mental health crisis the day before she went missing. Family and friends have started a GoFundMe page to help pay for a private investigator with hopes of finding her. If you know where Casey Yoder may be, call the Weld County Sheriff's Office at 970-356-4015, or you can call or text the anonymous tip line at 720-712-8635.
Shaka J. Wood has been missing since February 15, 2017. She was last seen by her family at their Gaffney, South Carolina church. They say she called a friend to pick her up around 5:30 p.m. and disappeared after that. She was last seen wearing a pink jacket with a fur-lined hood and black boots. Shaka is described as a black woman with brown eyes and black hair. She had blonde highlights at the time of her disappearance. She's 5'2", may walk with a slight limp, and doesn't have teeth. Shaka has been known to use a fake identity in the past. If you know anything about her whereabouts, call Gaffney Police at 864-489-8115.
An Arizona woman who has been missing for weeks may be in an Arizona regional park. Amber Bretsch has been missing since April 1st. The 51-year-old was last seen by her family in the area of North 27th Avenue and West Deer Valley Road in Phoenix. 4 days after she was last seen, her car was found in the White Tank Mountain Regional Park by a park worker. Her keys, phone, and debit card were found inside of the unlocked car. Search crews have used drones, horses, and police canines to try and find her, but they have been unsuccessful. Police have also been analyzing surveillance video from the areas she was last seen. Police say Amber is familiar with the park and used to be a park host with her husband, who died earlier this year. She still volunteered at the park and knew the area well. Amber is considered vulnerable after having a stroke 10 years ago. The 30,000-acre park includes rugged mountains, ridges, and canyons, and is about a 30-mile drive northwest from Phoenix. Anyone with information about Amber Bretsch should call the Phoenix Police Department's Missing and Unidentified Persons Unit at 602-534-2121.
Authorities are asking for help finding a Tennessee teen who's considered an endangered runaway. The Campbell County Sheriff's Office says Ayla McCullough was last seen April 14th around 1 p.m. Ayla's 5'7" with brown eyes and brown hair. She was last seen wearing black glasses, a pink shirt, tan jacket, and black Converse. Ayla was carrying a purple backpack and could be heading to Alabama. If you have any information about Ayla's whereabouts, call CCSO at 423-562-8095. Thanks for listening, everyone, and if you just can't get enough of Crime Over Wine, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
We will see you next Monday for the next episode of Crime Over Wine Weekly, and we will see you this Wine Wednesday for your regularly scheduled episode of Crime Over Wine.
Proud member of the Podnuga Network.